Hi everyone, this is Mr. Cole. The purpose of this video is first of all to give you an overview and give you some reminders about the National History Day project, and then also more specifically to give you some instructions for the winter break assignment that you have due on January 3rd. So you should have received a handout that looks like this in class this past week. If not, we could take a look at it here, but this is just kind of an overview giving you some instructions about the overall project. And it says, as a U.S. history student at E.L. Haynes, you are going to be participating in our school's 4th annual National History Day competition, which is going to be held on March 9th, 2017. And as you know, the winners of this school-wide competition will go on to the Washington, D.C. citywide competition, and then you could possibly advance to the national competition in June, going up against students from all across the country. And also in this handout, it lists some of the requirements for the project, including selecting a topic, conducting your research, making your bibliography, creating your actual product, and writing a process paper, and then presenting your work to the judges on March 9th. And on the back, there is this calendar. And this is really important for you to keep track of and have in a safe space. That way you know what all the requirements are going to be during January, February, and March. I just want to point out a few highlights. On January 3rd, you need to have a total of 3 sources completed. By January 5th, a total of 5. On January 10th, you're going to need to identify your essential question for your research project, which we'll talk more about in January. And then on January 12th, 10 sources need to be completed. And then a thesis statement with claims is due on January 17th. So that's just kind of a preview of what's going to be happening the first few weeks after break. Now, specific to your winter break assignment, this was given to you in a packet. And the first page of the packet is just a space for you to make sure you have clearly thought about your topic. So what your topic is, why you're interested in it, and then the next few questions are really important because those questions are focusing in on the actual theme this year, which is taking a stand in history. So you need to be able to explain both now but also in your final product how this person or group voiced a position and took a risk. How did the person or group overcome opposition, meaning people who disagreed with or opposed their ideas? What changes were they trying to make? And then finally, what was the concrete action that took place? They actually needed to at least make an attempt at taking an action that would make that change. And that should be the main focus of your product. And proving basically that the person or group you chose fits into those 4 categories. And so by now you should have a topic that you have gotten approved by me. And if not, then you need to really make sure that gets done as soon as possible. And there is a list of sample topics I gave you in the same packet, which I'll scroll through here. And these are just ideas. I'd prefer you to kind of think up your own idea, but these will just give you some ideas on the kinds of things you could be selecting. And now for the actual required assignment that's due on January 3rd. Well, here's what's required. And it says 3 sources need to be completed. What this means is that for each source, you've done the following things. First of all, you've made a citation in your annotated bibliography on a Google Doc and shared it with me and your group members. And here's an example of what this would look like. So you're going to have the citation above, and then below a paragraph about the source that you investigated. And the way you're going to make the citation, many of you have probably used EasyBib before, but this is easybib.com. And once you're here, if you're using a website, you click there on website, and you can actually put in the website URL as a citation. If you're using a book, you can put in keywords or the ISBN number, and same things for videos or journals. And once you input that URL or that information about the book, it gives you a chance to provide more information if you know it about the source. And so, for example, if my topic was Bacon's Rebellion, here's a website from the National Park Service about Bacon's Rebellion. I would actually go ahead and copy the website address and click on website and paste it right there, and then I click the orange button, cite it, and it's going to confirm that information. I'm going to click cite this, and then it's showing me, it has figured out for me the website title, the article title, the publisher, the date I accessed it, etc. And then it's telling me that they still are not sure when it was electronically published. So if I click go to the final step, if I know that information or things about the author, it gives me a chance to add it. But if I'm not sure about that, for example, this website doesn't say when it was published, I can still go ahead and create the citation. And the citation is right here. And this is what I would, this right here is what I would copy over as my citation onto my annotated bibliography. So that's the first step, is just making that citation. If you need help with that, I'd be happy to help you in January. That's a pretty simple step. But again, going to ezbib.com is pretty straightforward. The second thing you need to complete is doing research notes. And that means you actually need to make sure you have read each source carefully and taken notes. And in this same packet, I have given you a template where you can take notes. And so for those notes, later on in this packet, you'll see this template here. Sorry, it's sideways on this PDF. But these are the categories and the page you should be using in order to take your notes. Please make sure you're doing a really good job on taking notes. That will make everything easy later, because you'll have access to the most important information for each source rather than having to go back to each source to find that information. Also, really make sure it's either in your own words or in quotation marks so that you don't accidentally plagiarize or accidentally just copy and paste something into your project. Okay, so we've gone through the first two steps. First was to make a citation. The second is to complete your notes for the source. And then the third one is to write a paragraph analyzing the source. And that's what will make it an annotated bibliography, because you have that paragraph analyzing the source. And so on the next page, it gives some information in terms of what is required for the paragraph about each source. Please use these questions as a guide. And these are 4 categories we've been looking at throughout the year when we've looked at primary sources. The first one is sourcing. And what that means is, who wrote it? What is the author's perspective? Why was it written? Is it reliable? What kind of document is it? Is it a speech? Is it a newspaper article? Is it a movie? Is it a documentary? The second one is contextualization. In other words, what was the context, or what was going on at the time? Where and when was it created? And how might the circumstances in which the document was created affect its content? The third category is corroboration, which is where you kind of compare this source to other sources. Does it agree or disagree? Is it reliable? As we'll talk about in January, there's a lot of sources and websites on the internet that are not reliable. They are not accurate. You cannot trust them. You should not use them. And so how are you going to know and determine that you're picking good sources? Again, we'll talk more about that in January, but it's something you should be thinking about as you find your first 3 sources. And then the fourth one is close reading. And what that means is you explaining what claims and evidence are used, what kinds of words and information are used, meaning what are the important ideas and details, and how is this source relevant and helpful to your project. So using those 4 things would then allow you to make an entry like this, where you have the citation for the bibliography, and then a paragraph where you analyze the source and describe the source based upon those categories. So if you do those 3 steps, citation, research notes, and a paragraph for 3 sources, you'll be off to a great start. And that's really your winter break assignment. So what I'll be checking for when you come back to school after break is that you've shared that Google Doc with me, and on there I'm going to see 3 citations with 3 paragraphs. And your notes, you're going to have a paper copy of those that you can refer to later in January as you start to put together your overall product. And just a reminder that you need a total of 5 sources by January 5th, and a total of 10 by January 12th. And so your goal is to really become an expert on your topic and trying to find as many different kinds of sources as possible to get as much interesting information as you can. Please feel free to email me over break if you have any questions about this, and I'm really excited about helping all of you develop really great projects for National History Day. Thanks so much. But before I go, there's one last thing I wanted to remind you of. At the top of each of these pages, you'll notice that there's this little note. It says, please go to this website right here for links to websites to use for conducting your research and finding sources and all additional NHD information. So that website looks like this. And this website is where I'm going to put all sorts of information about reminders and deadlines, and also sites that you should be using for conducting your research. So you'll see here in the right hand column there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to go in order to start searching. So I'd really prefer us to not just be using Google, but to actually use these search engines and these websites, which are more appropriate for history topics. They're specific to help you find history-specific sources, which will be much better sources than something you might just find off of Google. And also on here, there's some reminders and information about what's due on January 3rd. There's a link to the template that you should use for doing your research notes, etc. So basically, this is the place to come for any and all information about National History Day. And the way you find it is by going to tinyurl.com/NHD2017. All right, that's it for now. Please email me if you have any questions. Thanks so much.